Alright, for you Mass Effect fans, I have to do it once.
Assuming direct control.
Hello interwebs, I hope you're all doing well because I am here to review the second episode of Disney Plus / Marvel's Moon Knight, Episode 2, Summon the Suit! So staying spoiler free before we get into spoilers in the back end, this episode was a excellent second follow-up to the premiere episode. The premiere was mostly just trying to set like the mystery and the mood and make you ask questions while also giving a little of hints here and there of what this sort of series and dynamic was going forward. But this episode did a really wonderful job of not only explaining how everything worked, like how the relationship between Steven and Mark was, a little bit more of Mark's backstory, as well as his relationship to Khonshu, who is the like Moon Knight guy avatar that's controlling them, as well as Ethan Hawke's sort of ethos and ideology. Like, all of that is explained here. Yet what I appreciated most about it was that it was not just like an exposition dump where characters just sit down and tell you what's going on, but we get it all through context clues and little hints and just the ways that characters interact with each other. I think the most telling that this episode did was Ethan Hawke's like explaining his sort of ideology. But even then, it was mixed in with like him kind of playfully sort of playing off his knowledge and awareness of Steven and Mark's situation, as well as him sort of like being this kind of interesting villain who is a little bit more affable than a lot of other Marvel villains have been, which I really appreciated. And then on top of that, like Oscar Isaac's just continually showcasing why he is one of the best actors working in like blockbuster Hollywood right now. Like every scene that he's in and the jumping between Steven and Mark that he does throughout this, even though I'm sure the Mark stuff was like done in a separate time than him doing Steven, but all of it was just so good. Like I really was impressed by his acting here, but even more so, I think Ethan Hawke, I really loved his calm, cool, collected sort of cult leader vibe that he was giving off. Like everything with Ethan Hawke was great. Honestly, I think the only downside that I had for this was while I did like the designs of like Khonshu and the like jackal that Steven and Mark had to face here, I do think the CGI was not as up to snuff as probably some of other Marvel's properties, even on Disney Plus. And you could even tell that they were trying to save on the budget here, and they've got some clever ways to do it, between not just the time jumps that we saw in episode 1, but with like the fact that Jack was invisible for half the fight, which was really clever in order to save budget, and I think worked overall. But when we did get to sort of see the full CGI of these sort of creatures that are in this episode, I was like, oh, this is a good design. The design's great. It still felt a little bit plasticky and weird compared to some other stuff that we've seen Marvel do. But with all that being said, let's jump into spoilers. So if you have not seen the episode yet, I'm going to just talk about specific spoiler moments going forward. So now that we're in spoilers, I guess this technically wasn't a spoiler, but we do see it this episode for the first time, so I'll put it in spoilers. That suit that Steven puts on when he sort of takes on the Moon Knight suit, freaking awesome. I loved that. And I also loved the dichotomy of like Steven getting a different suit and Mark having a different version of the suit when they power up. I liked seeing the differentiation, not just in their personalities, but in how their suits display themselves. I thought that was like a really cool like separation for the characters. But clearly this one is the better one. Like, come on, look at that thing. It's great. So just running through the episode, again, I liked the opening sort of 10-20 minutes here where we kind of have Steven trying to figure out what's going on. It kind of was playing a little bit off of episode 1 where we're still kind of learning things, we're not 100% sure what's going on, and it just shows Steven's confusion, but he's starting to get a little bit more of an idea of what's happening here. And I like that he's sort of trying and getting a little bit more aggressive in how to figure things out, leading to his confrontation with Mark in the creepiest storage facility of all time, because like, terrifying storage facility. Like, storage facilities can be creepy. I've been to more than a few of them, but this one definitely up there in creepy storage facility. I mean, between this and Doctor Who, like, storage facilities are apparently an in vogue thing in 2022. But speaking of the storage facility and his confrontation with Mark, and this goes for every single interaction that the two characters have throughout this episode, is that I like that Steven does not really like Mark at all. He even calls him a twat, I think, at one point in the episode when he's talking to Layla. But I like that we do get the sense that Mark actually does care about Steven. Like, because in the first episode, we got Khonshu saying about Steven, oh, the idiot's in charge. And so I would have thought immediately that sort of idea would have been displayed in Mark as well, that he would sort of look down on Steven, that he hates Steven, that he thinks he's a lesser version. But I never get that impression. In fact, at the end, in the final conversation that he and Steven have, you really get the sense that Mark has a lot of self-hatred, that he sees himself as the lesser person. And while Khonshu thinks that Steven's the idiot, Mark definitely thinks Steven is the more worthwhile person, and that he's trying to protect Steven, and he honestly earnestly believes it, but he doesn't think that he's a good person. You get that sort of mirrored in a few different things that Steven learns about Mark throughout the episode, such as when Steven is started taken by the false cops, and he learns that Mark shot people in the head and everything, is a very kind of ruthless killer and doesn't necessarily see him as a good person, which can mirror into Ethan Hawke's sort of ideology on the world, because clearly Mark's done some bad things and sees himself as a bad person. But does that mean that he can't be redeemed? Can he not sort of do work to make himself better? I think that's probably going to be the arc of the show. It's like, if a person does bad things, can they redeem themselves? Can they atone for their mistakes if they sort of take accountability and try to move forward? I like that. The ideas and themes of accountability, which has been in a lot of different shows this year, like Star Trek Discovery's on that. I really like that, because I think that's something with our culture today is wrestling with, just accountability and needing to take accountability before you can make up for your past actions. So I like that theme. And I like that it goes against what Ethan Hawke's sort of ideology is. And I loved that scene too, where Ethan sort of takes Steven under his wing, and we get this calm, collected cult leader. Cult leaders are very good at convincing people that they're good people. And I like sort of that sort of element where he's almost able to convince Steven. And I love where he's sort of repeating the same thing that Khonshu's stating. And Khonshu's being this giant asshole jerk where we don't like him. And I like that Steven has to be kind of convinced that the people that he are technically on his side, like Mark and Khonshu, are the good people, and that Ethan Hawke isn't actually kind of the right one. And again, I just like that complication here of Steven needing to be convinced that he is on the right side of things with Mark and Khonshu. All of that was, I think, really wonderfully displayed. I think, like I kind of alluded to in my spoiler-free section, the other negative that I really have on a sort of grand scale was a little bit of the tell, not show when it comes to Ethan Hawke's ideology, but we did already get a lot of showing it last episode with sort of when we got introduced to his character. So here, it's a little bit better if they just state it outright and give us a clear, this is what he believes, the Minority Report sort of thing, we can eliminate evil by sort of chopping off the limb, that we're just, anyone who does is considered evil by any means, whether they do it in the future or whether they've done it already, just deserves to be cut off. And obviously that's sort of blaming people for they have the chance to actually maybe change themselves, or maybe to do something different, or to actually do the thing that they actually were committing a crime for, or what the circumstances was for that, and what the value judgment is being placed on them, who gets to say whether they're evil or not based on their actions, whether they were working for a larger goal or not. All these sort of different questions that these sort of trying to weigh the scales of someone's goodness or evilness constantly bring up. We see it in a bunch of different things, The Good Place sort of talked about that as well. So I think that was really, really cool to see here. And I haven't really talked about her much, but I liked Layla. She sort of comes in not believing Mark, and the amount of time it has to take for her to be convinced that Steven is not Mark, I thought was a good time. It didn't immediately happen. And Steven starting to actually evoke feelings for her. And then you also get to see that there's been a subconscious sort of reflection of her. He probably studied Egypt because of his awareness of her and sort of Mark's relationship with her, and then they share the same poet. So there's while Steven was not aware of her, that he had some subconscious connections to her. And I like that sort of shining and showing a subtle connection between the characters that even doesn't necessarily need to be stated over the head. I mean, obviously we're getting a fall in love really quick. That's sort of the Marvel blockbuster way. It's not going to be the deepest of romances, but I do like the subtle little pieces of the ways that that's being built out here, and I thought that was really nicely displayed. I think the only other thing worth mentioning is the fight sequence at the end where Steven sort of puts on the suit and he's trying to fight the Jackal by himself. Absolutely hilarious. Again, Oscar Isaac's clearly having a lot of fun. I like the physicality that he brought to wearing the suit. I don't know if Oscar Isaacs was in the suit for those moments, but again, just the physicality that he displayed was trying to rough him up, I can do it, the very inexperienced way. And then when Mark takes over, he immediately just can, he gets his shit done. He can run through and gets everything. I like the difference in styles between the two versions of of the character, and I thought that was nicely shown. Again, very good at visualizing stuff instead of just outwardly stating it to us here. So a lot of complicated stuff going on here. Overall, I thought this was a great second episode to this series, and really hooked me. But I'd love to hear all your thoughts down in the comments below. Did you like this episode of Moon Knight? Did you not like it? Let me know. But beyond all of that, thank you so much, my friends, for watching, and I will see you next time. But until then, live long and prosper, my friends.